So we're doing research in my spare time, and when you go through the school curriculum, sort of key stage 1 and 2, um, this takes you up until to secondary school, and in the science part of the curriculum, it sort of linguistically plays a trick by acknowledging what science is, and that it gives you the foundations for understanding the world, and that the pupil should be taught aspects of how to gain knowledge, the methods used, the processes which encompass science. It also states that the purpose, people should be encouraged to recognise the power of a rational explanation and develop a sense of excitement and curiosity about natural phenomena, and that you should be encouraged to understand how science can be used to explain what is occurring, and then be able to predict things, see patterns, and analyse things. And this purpose and this aim is good. If you're going to send your children to school to be indoctrinated, this would be a good thing for them to learn, and is natural anyway. We see it in animals. Children naturally, they observe, they look, and then they'll test it themselves, and then they'll learn from that. And it is the essence of the scientific method. At the beginning of the curriculum, it does say, it's the insecure, superficial understanding of concepts will not allow genuine progression, and will build up to serious misconceptions. So it also throws in that sort of nonsense as well. So you can already see that it's not just going to be dealing with the scientific method. It's going to be dealing with belief system. So yeah, there's a distinction between knowledge and concepts. It does clearly state at the beginning of each element of the curriculum that the students should be working scientifically to understand, and should be using the scientific method. But then it'll go on and use certain words which would lead the teachers into teaching things without the scientific method. So basically, it's one of those situations where it's on the teacher, but it's also in the curriculum. And if the teacher isn't aware of themselves, which they won't be because they went through the school system, it's set up so you're never gonna use your brain really. You're going to be taught things which are just beliefs, and that's where it all falls apart, because at school and a proper education, you should be being taught how to use your mind and your brain. Just like in art and making things, you get a tool and you play with the tool, you play with the pencils, you learn how to use them. and scrap bits of paper or scrap bit of metal. You get to know the chisel, how it feels in your hand, know the intricacies of the geometry at the very tip of this chisel, so I know how it will turn. And basically, that's your mind. You should be learning how to use your mind, learn all the methods of reasoning, how to come to a logical conclusion, understand the intentions of other outside secondary source information, discernment, and then recognize all the logical fallacies which are used. But obviously this is not what happens. You're not taught to use the tool which is your mind. You're just taught to fill it so you can be an information retrieval system for society. It's I mean, like basic, like at the beginning of the science curriculum, it clearly states that in every section the children should be working scientifically, and then it gives you the statutory requirements of what working scientifically is, and that's asking questions, relevant questions, to say relevant, asking questions, making systematic observations, taking accurate measurements, recording findings, using your results to draw conclusions, identifying differences, using your results to support an argument. These are excellent things. If you're going to be separating life up into sciences, then it's a good way to proceed, to use the scientific method. And when you first read that, you have hope. And then what happens is you start going through the sections and you start realizing that there's words that you definitely need to look out for, like the pupils should learn to look and investigate secondary sources, which I'm sure it's interesting, but that's not a scientific method. There are key words like identify, explore, investigate. They're pretty good words. When it's it becomes basically when each section when it says the pupils should be taught to, and then you see the words investigate or explore, identify, categorize. Especially for younger ones, identifying things and categorizing them, that goes hand in hand with the natural thing you want to do, because you want to, when you're really young, 5, 6, 7 years old, you love just gaining knowledge and be able to understand and name things. 7, 8, 9 years old, then you need to know a little bit more, and experiments are the way forward. So it moves from that to then you start seeing sections where it'll say the children should be taught, this is a statutory requirement by law, children should be taught to explore this, investigate this. And then all of a sudden you'll just see creep in, describe this. So the children should be taught to describe, and then it'll say something crazy like the planetary movements, or the children should be taught to describe the Earth, the Moon, the Sun as spherical objects. So the children shouldn't be taught to describe things in a set way. That's not science. That's telling you what to think. Yet at the beginning of each section, it categorically says, work scientifically. So the curriculum is set out to contradict its aims, but definitely tells the teachers in no uncertain terms that they're to teach each section using the scientific method, but then at the same time to describe things as part of the knowledge base, which is where the belief system is installed. I mean, it also relies on the programming the teachers had, and also the extracurricular programming through television that the teachers will do in their own time. It relies on this extra knowledge, extracurricular knowledge. So when they're talking about fossils and things, it's quite open for interpretation. So it doesn't mention go down the dinosaur route initially, but it's said in such a way that the children and the teachers will head in that direction themselves. I mean, it is quite funny because, like, in one section, it's about the state of matter. And it's get the children to compare different materials, which is good, and then observe that some materials will change state when they're heated or cooled. Measure the temperatures, and then identify. So you've got your good words: compare, observe, identify, and then in there as a non-statutory element, it says, wait, let's grab it. Oh, no matter where is it? Basically, it's like pupils should explore a variety of everyday materials and develop simple descriptions of the states of matter. For example, solids hold their shape, liquids form into a pool, not a pile, and gases escape from an unsealed container. And it's brilliant. These are facts we can all observe and we can test. But I know that about 2 pages later, it's going to expect you to describe something which denies those things you can test for yourself. It's hilarious. I don't know. It's an interesting document, I have to say. And if you've got children and they do go to school and you're not in a position to homeschool, I would, and if you're getting your children to critically think, and you're giving them some tools to be able to use their own mind, I think what a good thing would be to do is print off the curriculum, go through it yourself, highlight these things, highlight the elements which are good, where you can clearly see the children will be encouraged to use their brain, think, and test and observe and look at the natural world, and highlight those. and then also highlight the parts which are where they install the belief system, and go through with like, what did you do at school today? Oh, I did this. Get the curriculum and say, look, this that's good. I mean, this is what we should be doing. We should be looking, and you can take them through what just make sure they understand the scientific method, and ensure that they know that this is what the school's there for, to teach them this, and to use it for all elements of the science teaching, and show them how beliefs can creep in and be implanted in your psyche, by highlighting the parts where it is describe this, without any proof, but just describe it. I mean, it sometimes it's probably it's fair enough if it's to do with substance. So if you're being asked to describe something which you can't see, like like a digestive system, well, we've all got bodies, and we can understand that we eat food, we take energy from it, and the waste gets shitted out. There's a digestive system there. Obviously there's people who are, I'm a breatharian. I don't, very, very well. You might get into an altered state of consciousness, and it probably is good to try. But you definitely need food. We've got a digestive system. Probably it gets overworked in today's society because people eat far too much food and don't do enough exercise. So describe, and but if it's, you just got to read it yourself, and if it doesn't make sense, then it's nonsense. Talk about with your missus or your a friend, or online, just who with anyone, just talk about it. Well, I've noticed this. What do you think? Okay, and then you can use the curriculum as a tool to highlight the nonsense, where the belief system stuff is, and then you're empowering your children, because they see the layout of what's going to be taught. So you got taught that yesterday. Okay, so what's coming up next is this. Right, these are the key things. Boom, boom, boom. It just takes a bit of work, but we're in a position to do that because we care, and we're not sitting in front of a television, or we're not sitting in front of YouTube watching more programming that's built on the fact that they're relying on people have been programmed to sit and accept and not think. So therefore they use the same system with YouTube content to put people in the same holding pattern. We can present things which are just theories, but they're fantastical, and we'll throw in a bit of, we'll slag NASA off, we'll call them liars, so we're denying the system, but we'll give you more of the same. We're not going to teach you to think because we want you to come back, because this is the holding pattern. It's like basically but there's so much good information there, and it's getting lost in a sea of bollocks, intentionally. But I mean, I'd say the curriculum, the statutory requirement is you work. Everything in the science part is based on working scientifically, taking measurements, recording data, using the results, reporting, presenting the results, and being able to identify what is evidence. Um, and then on what is like on page 29. Page 29 is the beauty. That's where the hammer, the describe. All of a sudden, they'd put a couple of describes in. Children should be taught to describe, which I thought that's not quite the scientific method, but I can understand its substance. And then page 29, boom. Pupils should be taught to describe the movement of the Earth and other planets relative to the Sun in the solar system. Describe the movement of the Moon relative to the Earth. Describe the Sun and Moon and Earth as spherical bodies. Use the idea. It says use the idea of the Earth's rotation to explain day and night. So you're getting them to definitely. You have to be taught. You have to be taught to describe the Earth and Moon as a spherical body, but then just use the idea of the Earth's rotation to explain night and day. And then the non-statutory. But if you want to get good marks in your Ofsted, you should learn that the sun is a star at the centre of a solar system. It's just fucking complete and utter bollocks, and it's very frustrating. I mean, after doing that, I was going to do a little presentation on school policies, because you can, on that same .gov website, I started thinking, what are the school policies regarding the curriculum? But then I started thinking, what are the school policies? And it's very interesting, because there's two distinct policies. One policy for state schools and a separate policy for independent schools. I mean, and I can see that, the reasons for that. But what it does mean, which is very significant, is on the state school policy, the very first point is the children should answer, or I'll find out. But basically, the children should regard authority, and that's under no uncertain terms. That's what the first point is. And then when you say compare it to an independent school policy, that's not even mentioned. But what is mentioned is loving and caring for the children and encouraging them. And a very key point is giving the children's confidence. And I'd say that is one of the key roles of a school. Teach them how to use their mind and their brain and how to think. I mean, that's automatically going to give them confidence anyway. But if they're lacking confidence, nurture that and give them confidence. The state school way of regarding authority has no respect for confidence, but demands respect for authority. And this is how it works, because if that's not hammered home, then you're not going to be a good slave. And that's the bottom line. We want you to have the belief system. But more importantly, we want you to be a fucking slave. There's shit to do. We want you to do it.